Showing my head.
There you go. Looking good.
You guys can see everything okay? Participants. Everybody's in. All right, there we go. All right, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for joining us for today's a month of service presentation of property taxes. Oh, I skipped a whole the whole main word. Property pack property business property tax rendition for business owners is what it should say. My name is Nia Murray. I'm the programs coordinator with Neighborhood Recovery Community Development Corporation, and we are one of the partners in the A Month of Service collaboration. Also included, we have the City of Houston's Department of Neighborhoods and our presenting partner today with the Harris Central Appraisal District. We have Ms. Mabel Menifee as well as Ms. Shireen Blake, who will be presenting information for you today on business personal property taxes for business owners. Also included in the partnership, we have the Harris County Tax Assessor Collector's Office, the Earl Carl Institute, Texas Legal Services Center, Houston Volunteer Lawyers, and Lone Star Legal Aid. And collectively, we make up a month of service. And basically, a month of service is the collaboration of all of our organizations coming together on a monthly basis, offering a variety of different workshops, resources, and information to the community relative to community empowerment, asset building, asset protection, and the maintaining of generational wealth. We started these workshops several years ago in an effort to create a larger impact, reach more people in the communities that we all serve, and get as much information out there to those underserved communities that don't have access to a lot of information and resources or don't know where to go for particular services that are available to them, that can assist them in whatever issues that are that are facing them at that particular moment. So on behalf of the collective, we'd like to welcome you all and thank you for joining us this afternoon. A couple of years ago when Miss Mabel brought this to our attention, we didn't even know, like, what is business property taxes? And business owners are supposed to be paying a personal property, a tax on their personal business property and all this. I'm like, what? Like, nobody knows anything about that. Or people receive these little bills or statements in the mail and think it's probably junk and don't know. Voila. Yeah, it's real. You're supposed to be paying a business personal property tax, but they're going to get into all that information for you today. So this is your opportunity to ask the questions of the experts here in the field of business personal property tax. Feel free to type your question into the chat, or you can wait until the end of the presentation and ask your questions. Unmute yourself and ask your question aloud, or raise your hand and we'll call on you, whichever way that you feel most comfortable. Do keep in mind that we are recording this session as well as broadcasting on our social media platforms. So we try to ask that you try to keep your questions as general as you can possibly get it, as your specific issue is your specific issue, and we don't want to get into too much detail about your own particular situation. However, we do encourage you to reach out to the appraisal district if you have any questions about your particular situation. But do feel free to ask whatever questions that it is that you may have. So in addition to that, if you have the need for services of any of our other legal services partners, we do encourage you to reach out to them as part of the a month of service. You have the opportunity to get a pre-assessment, and Cecile can kind of go into the information about that to see if you qualify for the services of any of our other partners for free. So do keep that in mind as well. If you are joining us on our social media, please feel free to type your question into the comment section, and I'll make sure that it gets read aloud at the end. If some of you emailed questions to me in the beginning, I'll make sure that those get addressed or answered or asked and answered for you as well. So again, on behalf of the partnership, we want to thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Thank you for continuing to support the month of service collaboration. If you're new to our presentation, we want to welcome you and thank you for joining us today. So with that being said, we're going to move right on into, oh, let me give the disclaimer also. Information that we do provide is all for educational purposes only. None of our presentations are to be considered any kind of legal advice or the replacement of any legal advice that you would receive directly from an attorney. So do keep that in mind as well. But again, we do encourage you to reach out to our partners. So Cecile, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself? And then Ms. Mabel, we'll have you introduce and go ahead and get started with Ms. Shireen's presentation.
Sure thing. Thank you so much, Nia. And thank you, everybody. Welcome to another a month of service session. I am very excited to hear what HCAT has prepared for us today. They are also one of our partners, and thank you so much for this opportunity. As Nia said, we are part of our AMOS collaboration is to assist residents who qualify with free estate legal services. So we'll connect you with an attorney. We can go over your estate planning documents. I'm going to go ahead and drop the pre-assessment link in the chat. If you guys are interested, you can also find us, just a quick Google. You can put City of Houston wills and it'll take you right to our website, that first hit. When you Google that, it'll take you to the pre-assessment. But like I said, I'll go ahead and drop that in our chat. And without further ado, I'll go ahead and present Ms. Mabel and Ms. Shireen. Thank you so much for being here.
All right. Thank you, Cecile. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mabel Menifee. I'm with the Harris Central Appraisal District. And today with me, I have my colleague, Shireen Blake, who is a senior manager in our business and industrial property division. And she is going to talk about business personal property taxes. And that is something, as Nia mentioned, a lot of people, particularly when you're new and going into starting a business, a lot of people don't know about it. Usually takes their tax or accountant to kind of remind them of it, but it is something that is part of the Texas property tax code that individuals who certain equipment that is used to make money in a business is required to be taxed and locally. And Shireen's going to talk to you a little bit about that. If you're still confused about it, though, don't worry. This is the busiest time of the year for our business personal property tax division because of a deadline for something called a rendition that is April the 15th. And prior to that, they spend weeks offering free workshops for individuals who need to know more about that. So she will be talking a little bit about that, as well as giving you some basics about business personal property taxes and renditions. So without further ado, I am going to hand it over to my colleague, Shireen Blake.
Thank you, Miss Mabel. Let me go ahead and share. Are you all seeing my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
And you want to put it in presentation mode or slideshow mode? No, go from the beginning up top.
Wait. Slideshow mode. Start slideshow. Come on, it's not.
No, when somebody told me once we start having all these issues, that means you got a lot of good information that something's trying to block us from getting out to the community. So if not, we can do it right. We can go right from here. We can see it fine. So
okay, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, as Miss Mabel said, I'm with Harris Central Appraisal District and I'm in Business and Industrial Property Division. Today, I'm more so going to focus on rendition. Basically, property tax laws originated with Texas state legislature, and the district is overseen by the Comptroller's Office. What are our responsibilities? Basically, we appraise all county residential, commercial, and industrial, agricultural, and business personal property. And we also do that at 100% of market value as of January 1 of each year. What's the value as of January 1? That's what we value the property at. We also manage exemptions, maintain records, and we certify the appraisal rolls to the different taxing entities. So what is a rendition? It's a legal requirement if you are a business owner to report your personal property that you use for business. And basically it's used to appraise property for taxation. It provides information about the property you own as of January 1. Who has to render? Taxpayers must render if they own tangible personal property used for generation of income, or property on which an exemption has been canceled or denied and have been formally notified by the chief appraiser. Property that must be rendered. For taxation purposes, property is classified as real property, your houses, or personal property. Real property includes land, buildings, and other items attached to the land, example like a large storage shed. Personal property.
Miss Cherie,
Yes, ma'am.
we are still on the main screen, the Harris Central
Oh, I am
title screen.
moving mine and seeing mine move over here. Okay, did you see it move?
Yes, now it's moving.
Okay. Okay. Alrighty, so back to property that must be rendered for taxation purposes. Property is classified as real property or personal property. Real property consists of land and buildings and other items attached to the land. Personal property, items that can be owned, but they're not attached to the land. Anything that's basically movable, like your fixtures, furnitures, computers. What property must be rendered? Personal property that you use to produce income or for business purposes must be rendered unless the total value of all the personal property is less than $2,500. Business personal property includes furniture, fixtures, equipment, machinery, computers, inventory held for sale or rental, raw materials, finished goods, and work in progress. Also signpost. Personal property, when must it be rendered? April 15 is our rendition deadline for all personal property. If undelivered, it must be delivered to our office by April 15th. If April 15th falls on a weekend, then the deadline moves to that Monday after, the first business day after. What is required on your rendition form? The address where the property is located as of January 1st. We value everything as of January 1st. So where is the property located as of January 1st? Was it in transit on January 1, or is it regularly used in more than one location? Additional information about the normal location and circumstances on January 1 should be provided. General description of the property should be provided. Itemized listings of assets, your computers, your fixtures, furniture, your machinery, all of those should be itemized on the rendition form. For vehicles, you should include the VIN number, the year, make, and model. And it's good to include the original cost or good faith estimate of market value and the date acquired. Estimating market value, oh, 1 second. Publications, you have certain publications that provide value information and assets. For vehicles, you could use the NADA Blue Book. For inventory, market value is defined as the price for which it would sell as a unit to a purchaser who would continue the business. So you could, we have HCAD publishes business personal property value calculation guidelines. We do this every year, and it can be found on our website at hcad.org. General rendition form also almost always required. Basically, HCAD has a rendition form, and the controller also has a rendition form. HCAD accepts both. If your personal property assets were the same as those contained in your most recent statement, you only need to check the affirmation box on the form and provide your signature. If If you cannot file on time, you can request and receive automatic extension to April 30th for good cause. Request additional 15-day extension for good cause, additional 15-day. If the rendition is not received at HCAD on April 15 or an extension is requested, there will be a penalty imposed for failure to file. And the extension request must also be received by April 15 for it to be valid. Currently, we're doing rendition workshops. We have 4 virtual rendition workshops and 4 on-site. The dates for the virtual coming up Thursday, March 20th, 1 to 4 p.m. Thursday, April 3rd, 1 to 4 p.m. Thursday, April 10th, 1 to 4 p.m. For the virtual renditions, we have a sign up on hcad.org where you sign up for your slots, the time, and we'll have an appraiser reach out and answer any questions or assist with filling out the rendition form. On sites at HCAD on our first floor, we have renditions workshop March 12th, 1 to 4 p.m. Wednesday, March 26th, 1 to 4 p.m. Tuesday, April 8th, 1 to 4 p.m. And we have one on the deadline for rendition, April 15th, and that one is at 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. That's basically all day. These are walk-in where we have appraisers assisting property owners with filling out renditions. We also collect the renditions that same day. We date stamp them, give a copy to the property owner, and we file the ones that we collect that day. At the bottom, it says register for a rendition assistance session. You can go to our website at hcad.org, HCAD online services, rendition assistance. And these are for the virtual online sessions. Also, this is our website, basically our Central Appraisal District. At the top, it says forms. You can go there and you can find the rendition forms and you can go ahead and fill out the renditions. You can submit it via mail or you can do iFile on the rendition forms. Also, you can contact us at the address at 130113 Northwest Freeway. Our general phone number is 713-957-7800, or you can go to our website at www.hcad.org. Or you can email at our help@hcad.org. Any questions, concerns? Ms. Mabel, did I leave out anything?
No, I don't think you did, but boy, you went through that.
I went fast.
Really fast.
I
Yeah.
think it's the Jamaican in me. We pretty much talk fast. So do you all want me to go over anything?
So I guess what I wanted to just kind of bring up because we use the term rendition in the state of Texas. And for a lot of people, it's essentially like, and let me know if you disagree, Shireen. It's essentially like the same thing you fill out when you're doing your federal taxes, but it's called a schedule.
Yes.
Where you would, so a lot of people are maybe familiar with that. And one of the other things I did want to point out, which is one of the reasons we wanted to kind of start doing this workshop, because we mentioned it at a few of our property tax, real property workshops, and people were going, rendition, business personal property taxes. What on earth is that? And so again, that's one of the reasons we wanted to make sure that we provided that information. And one of the reasons it's so important is because a few years back, you guys all remember when people were receiving during COVID and they were offering grants to small businesses and the like to help them survive through the pandemic. Well, some of those businesses, because they were not on the tax roll and they obviously had had enough inventory and business personal property that they should have been for county grants, they were actually being denied those because they were not on the tax roll and should have been. So that was an important point for a lot of a lot of people back in a few years ago. So in a lot of cases, they were unaware of it. It's usually once the tax attorneys get that information, it will provide it to you, or sometimes if you're going through your first time small business owners orientations and such, you will be given that information. But we wanted to just be able to provide some additional information to you today, and also to let you know if you do need help, we offer that help each year free of charge for property owners to just come into HCAD and to get help from an appraiser in order to fill out that form. They also have some virtual ones, right, Shireen?
Yes.
Can,
I want to just show a blank rendition form,
okay,
kind of. Are you all seeing my blank rendition form?
there we go. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so basically this is what the forms look like. Business personal property rendition, and every year the date, the year, January 1, 2025, or whatever year it is. It's pretty simple, where you have the business name, the business owner, the account number. This iFile number, once we send the notice of property value, there's an iFile number attached to the form. Your mailing address, property location. In some cases, the mailing address is different from the location address. So we would want to have both addresses on the rendition form. Sales tax permit, if you are in the business of selling anything. Business start date, if it's new, or if the business closed, the date the business was closed. Square footage, business description, if the business sold. Those are important information that we would need on a business. And if there's a new owner, so we can open an account in the new owner's name and close out the account for the old owner. On here, it says the different type of business, whether it's individual, corporation, partnership, manufacturing, wholesale, retail services. Also, for some business, it says business own no assets in Harris County as of January 1. Maybe they moved to another county, so we would also want to know that. This affirmation of prior year rendition, by checking this box, I affirm that everything contained in the most recent rendition statement filed for prior year, so 2024, is accurate for this tax year, if you have nothing changed with your business. In part 4, you have description of the assets, inventory, supplies, raw materials, work in progress. Basically, you would just check whatever applies to your business. Part 5 is talking about market value. What do you estimate to be the total market value of your business assets? Under 20,000, 20,000 or more. And it says if under 20,000, page 2 is optional, as long as a general description of the property type or category has been provided in part 4. So if you're saying your value, the value of your property, your personal property is under 20,000, you would need to make sure you check part 4. And at the bottom, it's signed by the owner, agent, date, and it's notarized. The second page is basically just filling out the information, where you have the owner name, the account number. Then we have different exemptions. So September 1 inventory date, or interstate foreign commerce, or free port. And we would want to know those because there are certain deadlines on exemptions, and we want to process those timely. Part 7 is for inventory, raw materials, work in progress. So you would have to describe what your inventory is. Estimate the quantity, give us a good faith estimate or historical cost, and also year acquired. Part 8, fixtures, furnitures, machinery, equipment, computers. Basically, we would need the year you acquired the fixtures, the year you acquired machinery, cell phone, computers. We would need the year all of these were acquired and the cost. And then this basically would be for consign or lease property. Basically, that's it on the rendition form. It's simple to fill out. However, if anyone has questions, they can always call us, email, or send to help@hcat.org for any assistance.
For anyone who's actually joining us just by phone and can't see, could you give that information, the email and phone number of how they can contact you?
Okay.
Hey, Shireen, I have a question too. I'd like for
Yeah.
you. I know this sometimes comes up. Is there a simple way to explain when, well, whether it's who should be filing the rendition in terms of when it's rental property?
Who basically is who owns the business.
Okay.
Who owns the business. So if you have a building and I'm leasing that building, I'm using the building, say I have a nail shop or a barber shop. I am the business owner of the barber shop. I am the one that needs to file the rendition for the barber shop, not the owner of the building, because it may be different. The owner of the building would be basically maybe protesting the commercial. That would be the commercial aspect of the business. But the person who owns the assets, what is being used for income, they would need to file the business personal property rendition.
Okay.
Yes.
So are those two separate bills then? So they have like the building property tax, and then there's a separate
personal, yes.
Personal business property tax.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And both of those come from Harris?
And both they come from Harris County. And if you think about it too, say you're a business owner, say you own a building and you are actually the business owner for that building, plus you own a home, you would be paying taxes on your home, you would be paying taxes on the commercial building, you would be paying taxes on your business that you have in that commercial building. You're producing income.
But you're already being taxed on the income already. So that it still just kind of baffles me that you pay the sales tax when you purchase the equipment. You pay a property tax on the building that you own.
Yes.
And then I have to now pay additional tax on the equipment that I buy every year,
yes.
Plus the income every year that I use to make. So what's the incentive for a business owner to actually even report any of this?
The incentive, I don't know if I want to say incentive. They are
maybe incentive is not
yeah.
What would entice a business owner to want to report any property that they actually purchase if they're required to pay all of these taxes? And I'm being devil's advocate here.
Right.
So, me as a small business owner, I just started my little mom and pop. I'm barely making my lease payments or whatever space that I'm renting. I just got my little equipment. I'm barely making an income or covering, any kind of anything. So there is no other income to barely pay the income tax. Now I have to then turn around and pay another tax on the equipment that I just bought that I paid sales tax for too.
Yes. So look at it this way. We do discovery in the field. We are out there adding all these accounts to the tax roll. A lot of times we don't get to speak to anyone, so we're estimating. We know the business type, we're estimating. As a business owner, it would be their benefit to render. At least we know exactly what they have, what they purchase it for, so the valuation would be correct. More than for us estimating, say, hey, you may have X amount of equipment or say $50,000 worth of equipment when you only have 10,000. So it would be beneficial for the business owner to render to us. And a lot of times, once they give us historical costs, it's depreciated based on how many years they have it.
Okay.
So back to what you're saying, it's 3 different entities. You own the building, that's commercial. It's land and building. So yes, you're going to pay taxes on the land and building. You own the personal property inside the building. That's a different entity. Yes, you're going to pay taxes on your assets that you use to produce income. There are other cases where you don't own the building. You only own the assets inside. So You have one person paying for the commercial and then another person paying for the business aspect of it.
So what if you have all this equipment, but again, you're startup, you're barely making any income. So regardless of the income that you actually make, are you still required to pay the tax on the property, on the personal?
Once you're there as of January the 1st, yes. So say, for example, you just open your business, what we know, March. You wouldn't pay taxes until 2026 because you weren't there as of January the 1st.
Okay. So as they start up, and I know there's a question here in the chat, but it says we're kind of on this roll here. So as a small business owner, like you said, a barber shop, a nail shop, or whatever, I've got less than $50,000 worth of assets in here, say 25,000. So if I've got 25,000 on an estimate, what kind of a bill am I looking at every year based on that amount of assets?
That would be for the taxing entities, because basically all the appraisal district does is value the property. We don't send the tax bill. We send our value to the taxing entity, and based on their tax rate, they calculate that tax rate and send that tax bill.
Okay, so can we kind of put it into context though? Because you got small business owners that are watching, that are listening, and all they hear is, when they hear tax, they hear cha-ching, 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 cha-ching. So how much money am I looking at if I'm barely making any income or barely covering my costs as is? What kind of money am I really looking at on top of everything else? Just on a just one that's come across your desk for some barely whatever, if
Okay.
you've got 20,000, if it's valued at, if it's been appraised and valued at $25,000 worth of assets. I think that's just important for a business owner to think about when I'm looking at their kind of equipment. So that way, even me, I can budget. I know that I've got X amount of money that I've made. That's going to require me to pay X amount of dollars in income. I know what my property tax bill looks like. So I know how much I need to budget to cover property tax for the building. So if I know I've got this much equipment, how much do I need to budget as a business owner for personal property taxes as well?
So is that according to the tax rates that are posted on the website? Or is business personal property taxed differently? Or is it just taxed the same?
It's taxed, yes. It's taxed the same based on the tax rate.
So what they would want to do is to look at the tax rates, right?
Yes, based on their value.
The same as the land or the building, it's the same.
It's for personal property, it's not land and building, it's just your assets inside your computer.
No, I meant the tax rate, it's the same as the land and the building or whatever.
Yes, I think the tax rate is the same right across the board. Yes, because we basically send the value to the taxing entity, and based on their tax rate, that's how they generate the value for the property, the assets.
But maybe we should have
keep in mind that each year as the equipment ages out, there is that depreciation.
Yes.
So maybe we probably could have had somebody from the tax assessor's office then to participate as well, to kind of give a breakdown like they do for the actual property tax.
The residents, yes.
The residential. There was a question here that says that, does this speak to Harris County? Is the process / forms, etc., the same for Fort Bend registered businesses?
I don't know if Fort Bend uses, as I said, we use a comptroller's form and we have an Harris Central Appraisal District form. So for Fort Bend, I am not 100% sure. Pretty sure they may have their own form and also use the comptroller's form. But the information should be about the same.
The same.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
And it's good to keep in mind that the form on the website at the comptroller's office can be filed at any appraisal district in the state of Texas. So that information is going to pretty much amount to the same.
And which website is that to get that form? You said it was a comptroller?
So there's the property, what is it? It's the Texas Comptrollers and it's property tax assistance. It's their property tax assistance section on their website. And again, as Shireen said, the form for that HCAD uses is available at www.hcad.org under forms.
Okay, I want to put that.
And also keep in mind, if your business value is 2,500 or less, it's not taxable, basically.
You said
And
two.
there is a proposal currently headed towards the being passed in the legislature this year that is going to increase that amount significantly.
Yes,
It had been, what was it, 2 or 3 years ago, 500?
500, and then it increased to 2,500.
And now they're looking at increasing it again, so that may leave many of the smaller business owners out of it completely. But
Yes.
again, that's yet to be passed by the legislature.
Can I do a screen share here? I just want to double check to see
Oh.
if this is the correct one.
Okay.
Because I couldn't see the one that you
Am
had
I
up
still
there.
sharing?
No.
Okay.
Is that the correct form?
I'm not seeing a form as yet. Let me go to our website.
Ah, there we go.
Okay. Yeah, that's the controller's form.
Okay. And then let me look up the Harris County. I just want to make sure that I have the right one to share in the chat here.
Search.
And there is another copy. I want to put this one in the chat. Okay. Another question here, is that $2,500 net or gross?
Gross. If the total value on the account is 2,500, then they're exempt.
If the total value of
Total.
your business personal property is
Correct.
2,500 or less, then you're
25,
exempt.
yes.
Is that the only kind of exemption or only time an exemption that is when you're eligible for any kind of exemption? Is that the only time, or is that the only extent of
when
exemption?
it comes to a value amount, but you have other exemptions like Freeport, depends on the type of business you're in. You have Freeport exemption, you have abatement. But when it comes to the value, topping off the value, that's it, 2,500.
All right, I'll make sure that I have that link for those forms for the comptroller and the Harris County form included on an email that I send out to everyone of this presentation as well. Are there other sites or other information? Because I think I saw some other resource that you had on your slide where somebody could go to get more information.
hcad.org, hcad.org. And the forms are there. And we also have videos explaining the renditions, explaining personal property, different aspects of what we do.
Ms. Mabel, can you send me the link for those so that I can make sure that it gets, because I don't want to put the wrong information out there.
I sure can.
Okay. Were you able to find or to kind of guesstimate for like a tax bill for somebody that's got 25,000 worth
I
of?
was looking, but I haven't come up with anything yet. Trying to put in an account number.
Ooh, Lordy, Jesus. So much they don't tell you when you're trying to start a small business. Do they even, I don't even recall anybody ever mentioned this before Miss Mabel actually even said anything. So is this something once you, because I know when most people file a DBA, this isn't information that's just kind of, hey, make sure you apply your personal property tax, renditions when you file for your DBA or something like that. Like, how does the business owner know that they're supposed to be doing this?
Discovery with us, go into the field. Basically, we're responsible for all of Harris County. We divide the county in 3 parts. So we have the east part consisting of like Pearland, Pasadena, Goose Creek, all of those. So from September to March, every year we're out in the field visiting these businesses, giving out information about HCAD. We're updating our records. We're deleting accounts. We're picking up new ones. And for those that we don't visit that year, we do what we call field checks. So basically every year we are all over the entire county. So at some point, we touch every businesses and we always try to give out information. Some of the times we are not able to see the business owner, but we try to give out information. And then the rendition workshops also kind of assist and help the property owner to understand, you know, the business aspect, what they need to put on their renditions and how their properties are valued.
So
And
what if you're a home-based business? Then how do you and there is no building for you to go out and assess or anything?
With the home base, they get a notice every year of their value. So with that being said, say for example, they get a notice of their value and they're not comfortable or they're not happy with their value, they get an opportunity to protest. And once they protest, the district sends a date and time for their protest. They come to our office or we do it via WebEx and we discuss, you know, their value. At times, depends on the condition or the situation, they may get a reduction. Or if they're not comfortable or they're not satisfied with the informal, then they get a chance to go to the formal level.
No, I meant how does a home-based business owner know that I'm supposed to even be submitting this rendition or if there is no person in the field to come by my house because my house is in a residential area? How do I know that I'm supposed to be doing this?
December, we send a notice to all the property owner with the rendition form attached for them to fill it out.
The business property?
The businesses, we send it out December, and for vehicles, we send that out in February. Notating everything that they own and they have an opportunity to render.
And this is based on somebody that files the DBA, that files for a tax ID, that how do you?
Once we have their information, once we have an account for the business, we send information to them about renditions, for them to fill out the renditions and send it to us. We send them what we call an iFile number where they can file online, where they can file their rendition online.
So how do you
and for the new ones, while we're out there, we give them a rendition form. And if we pick up the business and they're not there, we send information to them about how we come about their value and if they want to protest. So we give them opportunities.
How does
I think it's important to know here too that business personal property owners have the opportunity to go through the same protest process that real residential and real property owners do.
Yes.
So how does a business owner get a Harris County business personal property tax ID number?
That's the account number, isn't it?
Yes. Basically, once we say, for example, you have a business, we always encourage people to let us know, hey, what type of business you have, when did it start, what are your assets? However, we are in the field, boots on the ground, picking up these businesses. And we're assigning account numbers. We're making sure we get their mailing address, their location address as much as possible. And once we come in, we set up the account, we send information to them saying, hey, this is what we have for you as of January 1, 2025. This is your value. If you're not in agreement, then you can protest your value. And if they are not in agreement and they protest, we set up time and date for them to protest their value.
And if you're a home business that does not have a business,
we send to home business too. We send to those because we have those listed as business in residence. So we cover all bases.
Okay, so for a home business owner or a small consultant or what have you, that has never received one of these statements or one of these bills or whatever, that have been in business 5 years, 10 years, what happens to them once
So
they find out that oh my goodness, I'm supposed to be paying for this and I've had this business for 10 years and nobody's ever said anything to me.
we back assess for 2 years.
2 years.
Yes. We
Or,
back
or
assess
is there
for
a
2 years.
penalty for them if they never knew or never received a statement or never?
We just back assess for 2 years, and moving forward, if they don't render, then there's a 10% penalty on their total value.
10% after what, January 31st, like
No,
the
if
regular,
they don't
or
render as of April 15, if we don't get a rendition for them for that year, we assess there's a 10% penalty assessed on their value, on their total value for
okay.
that year.
Oh Lordy.
So it sounds like if they act, like you were saying, if they're an isolated in-home business and they aren't aware of it, once they're added to the tax rolls,
We back
they,
assess.
we will back assess for 2 years without penalty or anything. However, at that point, they then know that they then know about the rendition process, and then a penalty can be added, correct?
Moving forward.
Yes, moving forward.
Oh,
And as I said, we try to cover the county every year because we know a lot of people not aware of personal property taxes. A lot of people we visit, they're like, oh, I've never heard of this before. So basically we're there to, inform, engage, and let them know, okay, this is every year you need to render on time so you avoid the penalties. And also if you go out of business, because you have some people, oh, they close business, they never let us know, we may have them on the tax roll. Then what we'd have to do once they inform us is we'd have to go back, do a correction to delete the account for those years.
okay. Okay. I've got someone that says, I have never heard of this, nor have I heard of it from any of the enterprise or entrepreneur groups or meetings or programs that I've attended. Never. So hopefully doing this type of a presentation is to get that information out there. So if somebody's been in business for 5 years, 10 years, and you go back 2 years, but now at this point, my office desk, my printer, my whatever is now completely depreciated, but you go back 2 years, potentially could I still have no tax bill to pay?
Depends on the value, and it depends on the year, because we have depreciation every year based on certain year life. So it depends on what you start with. Because when you think about it, fixtures, furnitures, what's the quality? We look at the quality, we look at what you call density, how much there is within a certain space. So if you're talking about a little business, there may not be a whole lot of value on your computer, your fixtures, your furniture, your machinery, or your equipment. So it all depends on the year of acquisition of those assets, and we depreciate from there.
Shireen, how does the schedules that you all publish each year fit into that?
We
There is a, go
we
ahead.
have those schedules on our website. Let me find them.
Can you kind of explain a little bit about what they are, what they're used for? And I think that may answer part of Nia's earlier question about how do they know how much to pay?
And then I was gonna ask too, is there any way that so if you got to go to the Texas Comptroller's office to file for a sales tax ID number, that they can let you know that this is also a part. I mean, the form is on their site, but they don't let you know that. Why is it that they don't inform you when you're filing for a DBA or when you're filing for a sales tax number that you now also have personal business property to pay? Why is it only incumbent on the taxing jurisdictions to go out and canvass the area to get this information out to people, because there's so many folks that just do not know this.
That's a good question.
Yes.
And maybe one that people should ask their local entities and even the where's the office that you go in Harris County to file your DBA?
Maybe we, as an appraisal district, maybe we need to reach out to those entities and maybe have forms there, you know, so when people come in to open a business, they can issue them one of those forms and say, hey guys, you're opening a business. You need to know about the appraisal district, you need to know about the taxes, you need to know about renditions. So maybe we need to collaborate with those entities so we can have the property owner better informed and right off the bat know what they're getting into, what they need to do, so they don't incur any penalties.
Exactly.
Mhm.
That would be most helpful, especially for those startups that, you know, that are, again, that are barely, because most, what, on average, the average business barely turns a profit for a couple of years, or if they even have a profit for the first couple of years for a startup. So on top of having no profit and additional tax that they weren't aware of and potential penalties, that could be the detriment of small business owners. Let me make sure.
That would be efficient.
I'm checking my emails to see if there were any other questions that were sent to me in advance, because I want to make sure that everybody's question gets addressed here. You do guys, you do currently have a schedule that's already out of when you're,
Yes, it's on our website.
okay.
Mm,
Can you send me that information as well, Miss Mabel?
Sure thing.
Okay.
yes.
Let me just double check and make sure I'm writing down what I'm gonna send you the schedule as well as
A rendition form.
The form,
Okay.
or if there's the where they go to find the other videos about other business rendition videos.
Okay. All right.
I believe that's it. Of all of our other participants, are there any additional questions that anybody may have, or something that, let me go back in the chat here. I'm trying to watch social media and the chat and read emails at the same time. So forgive me if I'm a little delayed here.
And while you're looking, Nia, I will just go ahead and say that starting probably at our next property tax workshop, we will be getting into the evaluation process, as valuation letters for 2025 property taxes will start going out in late March or early April, prompting most likely a lot of questions from homeowners, residential property owners, when they get their notices of their values for 2025. So we're going to be having special workshops starting at the end of this month, as well as in April and early May, that will specifically be able to specifically address the protest process for residential property. And again, it kind of follows along the lines of some of what Shireen has been describing, but we also will have with us during those workshops senior appraiser will be conducting it along with evaluation analysts. So you'll actually be able to ask questions of those folks that are actually doing the field work to establish those values. And they're going to give you tips as well on how to protest. You can ask specific questions, etc. So we encourage you to stay tuned for those.
And the one with the AMOS collaboration is going to be on March the 26th at 1 p.m. on Zoom. And I will include the link here if you all are interested in registering for that.
And we will also be having them in April,
In person.
in person, and early May. So you can also register for those. You may not have received your your evaluation letter by the next one, but you most likely will have by the April ones.
And I know you guys usually publish a flyer that's got those dates for those in-person meetings. Are you guys going to have another flyer that
Yes.
you want
I
us to
will
distribute as
send
well?
that to
Okay.
you to post as well.
Okay. All right. I'll make sure that that gets sent out and we'll include it on our email blast
And we try to
periodically.
do those in-person ones for those of you who are listening, interested. We try to do those in-person ones across the county, usually a dozen or so of those. Some are held in the evenings and some are held during the day. So you kind of have a wide choice of working one of those into your schedule.
And you said that the protest process for the business personal property is similar to the regular business, like the regular residential protest process. So would it be advantageous for a small business owner to attend one of those sessions as well to kind of get some knowledge about how to protest for the business side of things too?
The business with business protest basically depends on what you're protesting. Hey, were you there? Weren't you there? Or the value of your equipment. So you would have to bring maybe cost, what you purchased it for when you purchased it. They can also bring their income tax, their federal returns, because they have to put those on their income.
Itemize the Schedule C.
Right. So an income tax would be very good for them to bring when they're protesting.
Mm.
And if they're saying they moved, they weren't there, or, you know, they can bring maybe the rental agreement when it was closed, or, you know, when they stopped the leasing of the property for their businesses. Or if they move to, say they move from Harris County to Fort Bend, and we still have them on the record, they need to bring us something showing, okay, when did they move and where did they move to?
Let me ask this question. So for if a business owner is protesting, can you request a copy of their Schedule C from their tax return when they're trying to present or trying to protest?
Yes, we can, yes. And if they don't have, the thing is, when we think of protests and they come in, they meet with the appraiser. At the informal, they have more time to discuss, you know, their issues or their concerns. We take time to, you know, go through everything, make sure they understand the process. If they don't have the documentation at the informal, then they can go to the formal level where their statement, whatever they say, is on record. So it's so that can be used at the formal level, and the board, the ARB members, will determine their value based on that. But at the informal level, we need documentation so we can put in our system to say, yeah, we reduce the value or we adjust the value based on XYZ.
Okay. I'm just making sure that business owners kind of get an understanding of once you file that tax return and you put those expenses on there that you purchase to help reduce
Yes,
your
they can use that.
your tax liability for your income,
Mhm.
but then you turn around and then submit that same information for your personal business property taxes. Well, now you bought all this equipment that you just deducted on your income tax return, but you're now showing it as business personal property that you now have to pay on this end. So one way or another, you're going to get a tax from one or the other, right?
Yes, they're still gonna get their tax bill from us once the value is above 2,500.
Miss Mabel is smiling because she knows what I'm getting at. All right.
And we always look at the overall picture of taxes. I know no one likes to pay taxes, but we need the services. We need the police services. We need the fire when, you know, when we have issues, we want the fire to come out. We talk about the road, you know, we want to drive on good roads. So all these taxes are going to different services in our community.
But people also have to survive at the same time too. So if you're getting taxed on sales, you're getting taxed on the business personal property, you're getting taxed on the income. How are we supposed to make a living as small business owners if we're getting taxed on all ends of everything? It's next to impossible.
Sound like a small business owner, but of course.
An advocate for entrepreneurship and small business owners.
And you know, and that's always been
It's always how it's
one of
been.
the issues with business personal property taxes, and I can assure you that in terms of one of the reasons you probably have not heard from us until now is the important it is that we aren't necessarily, and Shireen can tell you, we're not out necessarily out there trying to find and trap
Right.
people into paying their business personal property taxes, but we are required, our primary role by under the Texas Constitution is to discover uh to discover properties within the state of Texas for taxation purposes. So one of the things I think Shireen did bring up, it's so much easier in a lot of cases for the business owner to go ahead and provide that rendition information to us ahead of time. So our appraisers aren't out there guessing, and then you have to spend all that time coming in and trying to say, no, that's wrong. You don't want to, you guys got it all wrong, and then you've got to bring in all of this information. Go ahead and do it. Just go ahead and send it in, and that way you'll know what to expect. I did also want to mention in terms of small businesses, it can definitely be a hardship as well, but we also see when you're out there driving around, especially in Houston, where you've got districts like Pasadena and in Harris County rather, where you've got districts like Pasadena and some of those others where they have huge oil and gas facilities and refineries, and those huge refineries where you see all of the equipment that lights up like a city at night. They're paying taxes on that they're paying taxes on all of that on the storage facilities. So it's not just the small business owners, but some taxing jurisdictions are actually finding themselves getting, being primarily funded through those large industrial institutions that are part of their jurisdiction as well.
I can kind of see that in some regards that if you're out there making billions of dollars and you're polluting and creating hazardous materials for our area, then yeah, you should be taxed on that. I mean, but that's let me
Yeah,
get
yeah.
off the soap. Let me
Well,
get off the soapbox for a second. But yeah, so I would definitely advocate for there to be a little bit more efficiency with getting information to small business owners as they apply for their licenses so that they are aware. I think it would make you guys' job a whole lot more easier as opposed to you out there trying to guess and now you have to spend all this time correcting and protesting and all this other kinds of stuff because
it
nobody
is.
knew that they were supposed to do it in the first place. So that would be helpful. All right.
But for the most part, a lot of our property owners send in their rendition, which makes our job so much easier. A lot of people just go ahead and render, and we don't have a lot that protest compared to the amount of accounts we have. We don't have a lot that protest because once they send in their rendition, we value the accounts. And if they're satisfied with their value, they don't protest at all. So it's important for them to protest. Tell us what they have, what they own as of January 1st, their acquisition cost, and list all the items. And based on the year of acquisition, it's going to be depreciated. We are not here to bombard or try to, overtax or overvalued any property. We're just basically allocating or trying for everyone to pay their fair share of taxes based on their business.
yeah, I can certainly understand that, but I'm just saying to make sure that I guess everybody kind of do their part to get the information out there for everybody to know. Because even for me, I would think for safety and security or for lack of belief that it's not a fraud or a scam, if you pull up to my business and I've been in business for 10 years and I've never had this bill, never knew that I was supposed to be paying this, and then you walk into my shop and tell me that I'm supposed to be paying taxes to you, and like, who are you? And why have I never heard of this? And you are a fraud, you are a scam. I've never heard of this, and blah, blah. And then and then they go away, but come to find out it's actually accurate. Now I've got a penalty because I didn't know that you were for real. You know what I mean? Especially when you get those statements or those notices that look like it comes from Harris County, because I've seen plenty of those as well that are fraudulent. So when is somebody supposed to know, or how do they know this is real or not real? Because they've never heard of it.
And when the appraiser is in the field and say, for example, they come to your business and you're like, hey, you know what, never heard of you guys. I don't know if you're trying to scam me. We have our badge says Harris Central Appraisal District, and there's also a number they can call to verify we are who we say we are while we're out in the field. So the person is going to stay right there and say, okay, this is the number for the Harris Central Appraisal District. You can go ahead and call to verify that I actually work there.
So call, if anybody is in doubt, call your local appraisal district and verify. That's regardless of what number you submit, because somebody can give fake numbers.
Yes.
Call, just look up the appraisal district in your area and verify so
Correct.
that you know.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. All right. Any of our other participants that are joining us, are there any other questions or comments, or this is my first time hearing of this? Yes. Which is exactly why we wanted to give this presentation. We did this for the first time last year because it was brought up, Ms. Mabel had brought it up during one of our other property tax workshops about residential property taxes. And we're like, we're supposed to be paying that? Didn't know that. And so we wanted to make sure we at least, try to get this out at least once or twice a year. So maybe again in the fall or something, we could probably do it again, or once a quarter or something like that, so that we could try to get as much of this out as we possibly can. Okay. All righty. Well, with that being said, thank y'all very much for joining us. Ms. Babel, was there something else that you needed to add or wanted to include before we wrap?
No, I just want to thank Shireen for taking the time out on one of their busiest times of the year to present this informative presentation. Appreciate it.
Okay.
And we will get that information. I'll get those links over to you.
Okay. The workshop for March the 26th, that is our property tax valuations, exemptions, and payment options. That's where we kind of start the protest, the start of the protest season, right?
Right. Correct.
Okay. All right.
But in advance of the protest deadline, which is normally May 15th.
Or 30 days from the date of the
statement. Get your notice.
After you get your notice. All right.
For the date.
So when those should start going out, sometime in April? Maybe?
Notices are going out in March.
March. Okay.
The post office, their bulk might take a week or two before they start hitting the mailbox.
So if somebody does not have their tax bill by, or their valuation notice by, what date should they reach out to you guys?
Actually, if they have been noticed, even though they may not have received their mail notice yet, it's going to be on the website. They can actually go out on our website and look up their real property account to get that information.
Okay. All right. All else fails, contact your local appraisal district.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank y'all very much. We definitely appreciate you guys informing us about this information. To all you small business owners, mid-sized, large business owners, if you have any other questions, do please reach out to your local appraisal district office for more questions or more information. Information relative to Harris County that we have that will be provided to us will be submitted and sent out to everyone, as along with that link for the comptroller's website for the business personal property tax form as well. So the recording of this session will be included along with the link of our YouTube channel for you to go back and watch some of our other previous presentations that we've had, in addition to our March calendar. This week, we also have, tomorrow we have our coffee and conversation that's going to be at the West End Multi-Service Center with Cecile with the Department of Neighborhoods, and a couple of other City of Houston departments that's going to be giving an update of what's going on in those communities. On Thursday, we've got our inherited property, clearing title for inherited property, and other probate concerns and payment options for deferred property taxes will be on Thursday at 1 p.m. for you all to join for that as well. But I'll send out a calendar of our March presentation so that you guys can register for those upcoming events as well. So following the end of this presentation, there will be a link that pops up on the screen. If you guys would be so helpful as to complete our survey for us, and basically kind of let us know, hey, was this information helpful to you guys? Was it beneficial to you? Are there other presentations that you all are interested in that you need more information about that we don't currently offer? Then please let us know. So as we're scheduling moving forward, then we'll know what to kind of put out there and provide for you guys. So there may be some information that's impacting your community that we don't know about, and we want you to make us aware about it so that we can, again, get as much information and resources available to you all. So with that being said, thank y'all very much. You all have a wonderful remainder of your day. Thank you, Ms. Shireen. Thank you, Ms. Mabel. We appreciate your attendance and your participation. You all have a wonderful afternoon. Take care of yourselves, stay safe, and we will see y'all next time.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Take care.